Welcome to the 4th episode of Rewind Heroes. I'm your co-host, Greg Compton.
And I'm your other co-host, Dan Gaines. This is going to be your weekly video podcast where we talk everything entertainment, from movies, television, basically anything we find cool.
And in fact, we found a lot of cool things this week, so should we go straight into the newsreel?
Why waste time? Let's do this.
So the first news is an official photo of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Really not a lot of news about this film right now, but the cool thing is Baby Groot on the shoulder. Just any thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that everybody fell in love with Baby Groot in the flower pot. So just to kind of see it taken one little step further, he's grown a little bit, not much, and I got excited about it. I think they have a lot of opportunities to do some fun things with him if he's that size. And all I've got to say, if they keep him like that for the movie, we better at least get one scene where he's flying around on a rocket shoulder.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty cool.
I think it's cool, and I revisited the first movie recently, and he loses his limbs before they get captured by the Nova Corps, and by the time he's in the prison getting processed, his arms are mostly grown back. So you wonder, is this a promotional thing just for fun?
Very well could be.
Does it vary his growth times, or is it going to be he's small and you need a big Groot at one point, and that's when all of a sudden he just grows, and they're like, why didn't you do that before? And he's just like, I am Groot. It could. I want to hear Vin Diesel's voice chipmunked a little bit for a baby Groot. That's just my thought. I think that'd be great.
Get your wish, baby.
So we'll follow that story and see everything. I'm just excited about this movie.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing that was kind of in movie news last week was they announced the release date for the sequel to Bladerunner. And it's Harrison Ford's back, and it looks like Ryan Gosling is also going to be starring. The movie's coming out January of 2018, which is kind of interesting. I'm already not that excited about the film, outside of the fact that Harrison Ford's in it. And I love Harrison Ford.
Right. But
I don't have a lot of confidence in it. It seems like the studio may not, with it coming out in January. What's kind of your thoughts about this?
I revisited Blade Runner last year. It just doesn't do it for me. The pacing.
Slow.
I don't dislike it. I like the idea of it. It just didn't, and I haven't read the novel. Was it Dreaming of Electric Sheep or something along that lines? So I'm not truly invested in this, but again, I like Harrison Ford too. I know that Ridley Scott had said maybe he was a replicant. I think that's the term they used for the robots. He said that later because you kind of wondered if that was the case. Harrison Ford's obviously aged. I mean, he's aged well, but he doesn't look early 30s anymore. So how do you play that off, or you change it? Gosling, that might be a really cool addition. I mean, he looks like he could be an android. The Hey Girl dude. I mean, I'm just saying. Let us not forget he was in Goosebumps as a child. Yeah, exactly. Send that picture to your ladies and see how much they like Ryan Gosling then with the bowl cut. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it could be well done graphically. I mean, it was ahead of its time, and it could really have a beautiful look and aesthetic. We'll just see. I mean, I'm going to reserve judgment until we see more.
Yeah, I need to see a teaser, or at least see what the storyline's going to be. Because right now, just hearing about it,
right.
It's okay.
Now, in other news, on a sadder note, when I was thinking of Harrison Ford, I heard that recently the cinematographer for the first 3 Indiana Jones films, Douglas Lacombe, sadly passed away, now age of 103. Wow. He was nominated 3 times for Oscars, including for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and his final film, actually, and appropriately, was The Last Crusade. Cool. I mean, if you're going to go out before you retire, I mean, Indiana Jones with James Bond as his father seems like a good way to go.
Pretty fitting, yeah.
But a lot of these images are iconic, and this is the man that put that together. So I don't know. I just think we gotta think about that a little bit when you're watching it. I mean, cinematographers make or break films, and he put out some most iconic images we've ever had.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's awesome.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Nice mentioning that.
No problem.
So I know that the next thing I feel like we can't ever have an episode without some kind of Star Wars news.
Yes.
Last week, I think his name's Gary the dog, from Carrie Fisher. She leaked a photo that the working title for Star Wars Episode 8 is Space Bears.
Space Bear.
So, does that mean the Ewoks are back?
That's the first thing that popped in my mind. That's the first thing. Which, I mean, I will take Wicket over Jar Jar any day. No, I don't know if they're back. But, I mean, it would be kind of cool to have like a little... I don't know, a little homage to him somewhere.
Sure.
Maybe they wind up on Endor in some small piece. I mean, they went everywhere in Force Awakens, it seems
true.
like. You know.
I have a feeling we're not going to see him. I think it's just a fun nod, but it's still kind of a cool title to put on there.
Oh,
so.
yeah, I completely agree. I think maybe her dog kind of looks like an Ewok, and someone thought this would be a nice little... Yeah, so I think that's cool. Also in that news, for Rogue One, I happened to see, and I cannot remember the name of the actor, but I read this story. If you go on the IMDb and you search for the cast, someone has been cast and their role is simply listed as religious warrior.
Interesting.
What religious warriors can you think of that are in Star Wars? Jedi? I don't know. Maybe you'll have a Jedi cameo of some kind in here. Maybe not, but I just find that interesting.
The other thing, because you brought this up to me, and it made me start thinking, the other religion that could be out there is the Mandalorians, because that's considered a religion. So what if it's Boba Fett, or at least some of the Mandalorians? There's already been that tease with his ship.
Oh, there's plenty, and then there's the sisters of, I cannot remember the last name, but the ones that are kind of the witches.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You've got, I mean, Sith. I mean, there's plenty, but it's just enough to kind of spark that, what are they talking about here? So I thought that was kind of interesting. On other news, Doctor Strange. Benedict Cumberbatch. I am too, and I never really read much of this. I saw the animated film, which gave me a background. But man, Benedict Cumberbatch looks the part.
Oh my gosh, he jumps off the page.
And I wondered when I heard the name announced, but when you see the photos, the reason that we're bringing it up is someone had leaked some photos on set, so we'll put that as blurry. It's not a lot, but I thought we'd mention it.
It looks great.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it really.
No, and I mean, it's coming out this year. I think a lot of people have. It's one of the movies I feel like you don't hear much about yet, because you've still got Civil War. Everybody knows there's a Star Wars later this year. But this one's between those two, and it's one of those characters that when I heard about it initially, because they've been talking about it for a while, I'm like, how does this fit?
Right.
Well, then when you see Thor and how his world still works pretty nicely into the whole Marvel cinematic, then I got pretty excited, because I'm thinking, okay, they'll be able to pull this thing off.
Because it's going to get weird. I mean, it's really jumping into magic, astral planes. That's going to be, I mean,
it's a whole different world they're putting us in with this one.
Yeah, people said that was a character maybe you could do on Netflix, but you can't because of the budgeting. I mean, just make this look right. So I'm very interested to see a trailer for this film. Someone also with this photo posted like a 40-minute video that I saw online of filming from his window of basically just to get the scene of Benedict walking up, leaning over a body, and someone behind him, but the guy didn't even know what film it was. And so, yeah, it was kind of an interesting. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just kind of scrubbed through for about a minute and caught like him walking. You get a few seconds of acting. Cool. But yeah, so just a chance to bring that up.
And I would imagine that the first teaser trailer will be out pretty soon, since this movie comes out in November. Maybe it's going to be with Civil War. That
could be. Now there's some other superhero news.
Yeah, so this week as well, we got another comic book related photo that was leaked, and Zack Snyder, it looks like it was intentional, but in the background you can see behind the actor for Aquaman, I can't remember how you say his name.
Jason Momoa.
And then behind there you see basically the Flash suit, and there's a couple other hidden gems in there.
Yeah.
What's kind of your thoughts on that? I know you're watching the show, The Flash.
The Flash, yeah, I love the Flash show, so I'm not as interested really in the Flash movie, and because I don't know the actor. I mean, Ezra Miller, I don't know what I've seen him in.
Yeah.
He could be great, so I don't know. I just really enjoy the show. Sure. But that outfit looks almost more true. So I'm interested in that. There's a few other things. There's a drawing of a female down there that could be concept art for Aquaman's lead female, which I believe is named Mara, played by Amber Heard. I don't know much about the character. I still, as much as I like Jason Momoa, I still want the guy from Entourage to be Aquaman, because they did the James Cameron Aquaman movie. Do you remember this?
I do remember that.
I just think it would have been the greatest casting ever to just bring that dude in straight up as Aquaman.
Tie it all together.
Nice. And if he actually took credits as Vinny Chase instead of the actor's real name.
It had a sequel, so it was a hit.
I know. So and there's other things. There's a suit. Could it be a Batman suit? It's kind of black. It could be a Nightwing suit if he's in it. We don't know who all's in there. There's one thing missing from this. Any reference of Green Lantern. And that, I was never really a DC guy, but later in life I did pick up some Green Lantern comics by Geoff Johns. Loved the run. Was not a fan of the film.
Which is probably why they're trying to steer as far away from that right now as they possibly
and I
can.
hear there's a Green Lantern Corps that they're working on because there was more than just one. So who you have play Hal Jordan? Now you've got what is his name? The guy that does the new Captain Kirk.
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. Now he's in Wonder Woman, so that kind of nixes him possibly being a Hal Jordan type. There'd been talk of him. There'd been talk of Idris Elba playing another version of one of the core. I mean, there's so many. There are about 4 different Earth versions.
Okay.
Guy Gardner. And
So would they need to introduce him in this movie? Because this is where I have my biggest gripe. I feel like they're introducing way too many characters in one movie.
But now this picture's for Justice League.
Right.
So.
But we wouldn't have. I'm saying like they're throwing all these characters in just Justice League.
Yeah, but he was Justice League, so you almost have to. But if you wanted to do that character right, and the problem they ran into is the whole Green Lantern saga. Done well. If you look at the Jeff Johns, it's basically a Guardians of the Galaxy story.
Okay.
And it could be done that way. So if they do a Green Lantern Corps movie, that's going to be great. And you could have multiple, the Earth ones. But I'm just really curious to see how they handle the costume. And here, I'll step out so you can see the picture of the Flash costume in there because I'm probably blocking it.
Sweet.
And all that. So anyway, there's that. Now, other short news, Pacific Rim. On again, off again, on again, off again with Del Toro. Now they're saying, no, it's on. Pacific Rim 2 with Steve DeKnight, who is the showrunner for Daredevil, which I love. I wasn't a huge fan of Pacific Rim. I really wanted to be.
I think everybody wanted to be.
And I start to wonder if I want to be a fan of those kind of things. Like I was a fan of BattleTech, the board game, except for when I played it, in the role-playing game. And so I don't know. Maybe it's just that idea of mech seems cooler than when it's realized on screen.
Have you heard the rumors, though, that they've talked about, now these are all just rumors that I've heard, that they're talking about the sequel for Pacific Rim is going to also be a crossover for Godzilla.
Now that would work.
I think it would too. That brings a whole different dimension to that.
Because that's what they're used for, and you're trying to make this whole mythology that isn't there yet.
And Pacific Rim was moderately successful.
Yeah.
But if you can somehow market it where Godzilla's who they're fighting, that opens up a whole new.
But doesn't everybody kind of cheer for Godzilla? So you almost want the guys who Pacific Rim to lose? I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah. So okay. Well, there was that story.
And then last week we touched on the whole R-rated thing with Deadpool. And we kind of talked about how will this open some different doors moving forward. Well, just this last week, we've heard about, they're talking about doing an R-rated Wolverine. They're talking about already a Blu-ray release for Batman vs. Superman, an R-rated cut. So what do you think, Greg? I know we already kind of touched on this, but what do we think about what we're seeing here?
The dollar speaks, sadly. With Wolverine, maybe you could do it because that character's tough. The one problem is there are a lot of kids that have latched on to that character from earlier films, and it's the same actor, so you've got, my thought is, and I'm a dad of 2 small kids, so, when a kid wants to be somebody for Halloween, Superman, come on. Really? Now, Batman can have a dark moment, but when you're meshing these together, no, and if someone, we hear about it, we saw it in the theater, they go pick up the R-rated version instead, which, look at what you're buying. I mean, but let's face it, people do things like this. Are you just, why, you're doing it to sell tickets, to sell DVDs, it's just jumping on the bandwagon. We never talked about doing a rated R for Superman, Batman until all of a sudden, Deadpool's doing it,
we mentioned there's going to be an R-rated cut. Here's the part I have a little bit of a gripe with. Everyone's acting like Deadpool's the first ever R-rated movie to be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been other comic-related, like Blade, the Blade movies. They were rated R. They weren't huge monster hits.
No.
So why does we have one hit 2 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden it's like the hot thing?
I mean, Dolph Lundgren's Punisher, I don't remember if that was R, but it should have been. I remember seeing that as a kid. I mean, there's so many of them. There's no reason for it, but it's, again, something pops in Hollywood. Everybody jumps on it.
If something makes a little money, they're going to try it until it's a total flop.
Beat the dead horse, and then we'll move forward, which is, and to me, you could have a rated R superhero movie, but you know what? Big Hero 6 was pretty awesome.
That's a great point.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So I think that's all the news for this week. I think we need to talk about a show that just wrapped up. So let's go on into the rewind and talk a little X-Files. And did it mark the spot? Let's see. We want to believe, I think, Did you believe?
I don't know if I did or not. I'm still trying to believe, but I'm not feeling it.
I'm processing. We're talking about X-Files. It came back, did a 6-episode run. Mulder and Scully are back. They want to find the truth. What was really revealed, I got through it all, just finished it up this week, and I'm just left with a mixed bag. Let me get your thoughts first, and then I'll throw some of mine out there.
Overall, I mean, it was fine, and I feel like that's a horrible word to describe anything. I wasn't a fan of X-Files going into this kind of, bringing it back, but I was interested because I always had seen enough that it was always a show I wanted to check out, and I just never have gotten all the way caught up. Overall, I mean, it's two characters that you can tell they have great chemistry. They're able to play off of that, but overall, I couldn't ever get past the show. To me, felt dated. And I know that in a way that's kind of the charm of the X-Files.
Right.
But I think that it was a show that was ahead of its time, and now we have so many things that are at least similar in genre that I didn't feel like it was anything fresh or new.
Yeah.
Overall, it just was meh. I take it or leave it. I never got excited about it.
Yeah, I felt like some of the episodes would have worked in a 22 episode run. But when you're only doing 6, everything needs to count. And I felt like some of it was lost. I mean, there was charm in the fact that the opening credit sequence is the exact same sequence.
See, things like that I appreciate.
That's cool. Bringing back the characters. Joel McHale did a great job, I think, in his portrayal of this news kind of Glenn Beck-ish kind of character. I don't know. I mean, when you throw everything out the window at the beginning and basically say everything that you thought was totally alien, I mean, we got some alien technology, but then, we're building things and a lot of it's man-made. That was kind of intriguing. Then you kind of touch on it, but then you go into all these weird storylines, kids with these mutant powers, which was almost like, could have been a cool XMen origin, and yet the writing for the dialogue was so stale in the second episode. And there's so much left from the first that you don't get, you don't get enough about the kid's story.
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. To me, if it was maybe a longer season, maybe we'd have a different opinion because maybe more of this stuff would have been hashed out. But we only had 6 episodes. Yeah. So to me, it needed to feel more epic because it was such a short flight. That I needed to feel like, okay, if I miss this one, it's going to really fuel the story. But it felt like it was really scattered.
Yeah, and I mean, there were things like, for me now, the third episode was probably my favorite, the Weremonster, because, and they would do this on occasion. I wasn't a massive X-Files fan. I watched it off and on. I always enjoyed it, but I'm not a person that could say I saw every episode. But I always liked it when they were self-deprecating, and I thought that was really funny, and it was a nice touch on things, especially after what we'd gotten from the second episode. The fourth was kind of like the building, your sculptures and pictures coming to life kind of story was interesting. The fifth one, with the terrorist attack and trying to get into the person's mind, couple thoughts on it. First of all, I felt like I was watching Hank Moody in the middle when he takes the magic mushroom pill and goes for a ride, which made me say, can we just get another season of Californication, honestly? Because I love that show. And then the other thing was at the beginning, they do the sound of the horns, which, you could look through YouTube and find this. People hear these sounds. Is it plates moving in the earth? Is this the sound of the apocalypse, the horsemen, the trumpets of God? What is a real story people tend to debate. They mention at the beginning, at the end you hear it. I'm thinking that would have been a much more entertaining story to me.
I agree.
Then, they wrap this up with a thought
Just kidding.
Wrap part of it up. When you're talking about, there's this on again, off again, alien DNA, what's going on? Then you find out, everyone's been tampered with. Spoilers, if you care to watch the rest of this. Spoilers, where they... X-Files, not our show. Preface. Everyone is getting basically a smallpox vaccine in the 50s, so it puts something into your genetic code that's also hereditary, and they're able to basically make the entire population sick. Certain people have been given alien DNA, like Dana. All of a sudden, you have population control, and you can select and choose what you want. It's all kind of brought down by the smoking man. That was kind of an interesting take on things. People are getting sick. I appreciated that. It tied in from the first story, so that was good. Here's my problem. Have we learned, and I've got a reason why they might have done it. Have we learned nothing from The Sopranos? The ending. Mulder's sick. You're getting Mulder basically the package of the IV of the cure. But all of a sudden, they're on this bridge, packed traffic, a light hits them all of a sudden. Dana looks up, zooming in. You can see that something in the sky. You're thinking it's probably the man-made version of alien technology. So it's probably not aliens, but you don't know because it just zooms into her eyes and cuts. And that's what you get. That is all you get.
And there hasn't been any announcement officially that it's coming back.
No.
So, like, as not really a fan, so I want you're more of a fan than I. How do you feel? I mean, are we happy? Are we okay? Or let's say it ended and we don't see any more of it. I mean, was it even worth it? Would be the question I would ask.
Was bringing the show back worth it?
If that's how they
only
ended
for
it.
Nostalgic purposes.
Okay.
If you're a big enough fan to say any X-Files is better than no X-Files, then it was fun for you. I mean, there are movies like that.
Sure.
I didn't like the fourth Indiana Jones, but at least it was Indiana Jones versus some other things that had come out. I don't feel that way about the Star Wars prequels, but I don't know. So it depends on where you sit with it. But I had a problem with that ending because that ending never works well for anything. We heard the grumbling from Sopranos. You also don't want to go the Dexter route of an incredibly lame ending. I felt like this was this weird mix. Yeah, I felt like it was a rushed ending to an arc that they had too many deviations from, and all I could think is there was no sign on the dotted line that you said that there'd be more, though Chris Carter says he intends to, he would like to, Mulder? Mulder, why am I blanking on the name here?
David Duchovny?
Yes,
Okay, sorry.
I don't even know why I just blanked on his name, because I know his name. I'll tell you. We're filming this early. No, I'm just kidding. He's expressed interest in continuing on. But the thing is, nothing has been signed by any studio.
No.
So to me, was doing that ending an insurance policy if this did not go well, that maybe you could get more because you'll have an outcry from fans. I need to know what happened. Leave it on a cliffhanger. You might say there's an audience here.
Sure.
I don't know. So maybe that's why they did it.
The good thing is we live in a world now, because I haven't paid close attention to how it's performed ratings-wise. But luckily now we live in this world where if a show isn't going to work on broadcast, who's to say it doesn't end up on a Netflix or a Hulu? Or,
right.
I mean, that could happen.
It could, yes.
But to me, overall, the show just felt as though they were excited about possibly bringing X-Files back. They got Fox on board. Fox couldn't guarantee them up front how many episodes. So to me, it just felt like a show they were writing, but they didn't know how long they were writing it for.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, if they bring it back again, I would maybe give the first episode a chance to give me an explanation, which they won't do, of what they just finished with, because you won't get an answer. We're going to get all the answers. We get a couple answers.
Right.
So yeah. It was okay. I wouldn't say to not watch it, but I don't think it was everything people wanted it to be. Yeah. And quite frankly, when you bring in shows like this, bring things back, it's never quite what you wanted it to be. I would say Force Awakens was actually the one exception to that rule.
I agree.
Because like I said, Indy was, a lot of these things that they bring back.
We're probably going to have the same conversation about Bladerunner, essentially.
Yeah.
It'll probably be one of those things, it sounded like it could be cool, but it ended up being okay.
Netflix is bringing back Gilmore Girls. All these shows and things are getting...
Full House is
Full
returning.
House is back. And why? Because they said, we're going to bring back one show. All of a sudden, like the rated R thing, we're bringing them all back.
If
this would have been a film, Full House would be rated R. That's all I'm saying. Which
I would pay money to see.
Would actually work with the one actor's stand-up acts. He's pretty brutal. No, I don't know. We'll see if we get any more X-Files. But the truth, only part of the truth is out there, and that's all we got. And I don't really think it hit the mark.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. All right, recommendation time, and guess what? I'm gonna recommend an album.
No way! I'm starting to get used to this.
I know. Well, recently we had the Grammys, and so I started thinking, what was my favorite album of the year? And by the way, Muse won Best Rock Album.
Really?
Yes. Now that's.
I was rocking out to that right before we came down.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously that's not the one that has supremacy. The one, it was the Drones album, which is very good. It's a concept album, but yeah, they won. So real music still lives.
Just have to go find it.
Yeah. My favorite album, it's not a hard album, but my favorite and the biggest surprise for me was Brandon Flowers, lead singer of The Killers, put out The Desired Effect, which is his second solo album.
Cool.
The first one only had a couple standout songs. This one was a shocker. I loved it all the way through. Very 80s synth vibe completely, but probably my favorite song of the year is on this album.
Sweet.
So I don't know, Lonely Town, I think it's a great album. I'll put the music video on our page. But yeah, I'll get you a copy of that or something. You can listen to it on Spotify, something. I think it's a great album. Did you have a favorite album of the year or one that you discovered?
Yeah, what I discovered, I stumbled upon it, was Johnny Swim Diamonds.
Where did you hear about that?
I actually tuned into this video podcast called Rewind Heroes.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff on
Well,
there.
maybe all 30 people that are watching will check out that band.
Maybe 32 we are.
Maybe. So I'm glad you liked that.
Yeah, no, it
so
was great. It
check
really
this
was.
out. I think that was great. What do you have?
Yeah, so I'm always going to probably bring some kind of movie to the recommendations. One that I've got for you, I think it came out probably around 2004, 2005. It's called The Squid and the Whale. And this movie's kind of about a dysfunctional family. They're going through a divorce, and it's just about, I feel like I always like this dark comedy stuff now that I start saying this out loud. But it stars Jeff Daniels and Jesse Eisenberg. I think it's one of his first movies.
Okay.
It's definitely worth a
the view?
watch. It's worth doing that too. But it's called Squid and the Whale. Check it out.
All right, cool. One last thing, because I think you would like to watch. I mentioned it to you. I think other people would. Saw this on Netflix. I caught it when it was originally on TV. I want to say it was Bravo or IFC or one of those channels did this, but it's called The Long Way Round. There's also The Long Way Down, which was the sequel. Basically, this is a documentary, and there's a book you can read, and it's Ewan McGregor and his friend Charlie, who's also an actor, who they have a big passion for motorcycles. And they get it in their head, we are going to go around the world with motorcycles as much as we can, starting in their hometown, all the way to New York.
That's cool.
When you hit a point where you have to take a boat or a ferry, you do that and then you pick up, going through all these countries. And it's really an interesting show because you see all the trouble with checkpoints, especially in the European smaller countries, things like that. Riding through Mongolia, there are no roads. They have these heavy-duty BMW bikes. There are crashes, there's injuries, there's a crew that comes and meets them, but there's times when they're on their own. And they might be in the area of Russia where you've got a guy that has a house much bigger than what his paycheck shows and decide that they're all going to drink vodka and shoot guns in the air.
Nice.
And they start wondering, are they really in danger or not? It's a cool show. And then Long Way Down, they go from, I can't believe if they start in their hometown or not, but they wind up in Cape Town. And it's a lot of fun.
The trailer looks great.
Yeah.
I definitely want to check it out.
If you're a fan of Ewan McGregor and you like kind of reality stuff, it's a decent reality show. There's not the crud drama on so many. It's just a really cool documentary. I definitely suggest checking it out.
Sweet.
So I think that's a good show. I think we got a lot covered.
Got a lot of news in there.
Yeah, so until next week, be kind.
And please, rewind.